Welcome students to another lesson. Now in this lesson we'll discuss Bohr's theory of hydrogen atom. So up till now we have discussed the Bohr's four postulates: the nuclear concept, the quantum condition, the stationary orbits and the frequency condition. Using this Bohr's postulate we will now discuss or we will derive the speed of electron and the radii of the permitted orbits, that means the allowed orbits in the hydrogen atom. Here note this term radii, okay, this means radius only. Radius is a singular term whereas radii is a plural form. Okay, since we are considering different orbits, that means there will be more than one orbit, so we have to use the plural from here. So this is the radii, the radius of all the possible orbits in the hydrogen atom. Now up till now we have understood that there is a nucleus around which an electron revolves. Now this nucleus has a charge plus Ze, where this Z denotes the number of protons inside this nucleus and E denotes the charge of the individual proton, and since it is positively charged, so I have put a positive sign. Fine. Similarly, you consider an electron. This electron has a charge minus E. Now this electron's charge magnitude is E, that is 1.6 times 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb, and this negative denotes the charge, the sign of the charge of an electron. Now since your proton or your nucleus is positively charged and your electron is negatively charged, therefore there is a electrostatic attraction taking place between the positively charged nucleus and your negatively charged electron. That means the nucleus is attracting the electron towards itself. Fine. Apart from this electrostatic force, there is one more force coming into a picture. This force is known as your centripetal force. What does this force does? It pulls the body towards the center of the motion. Can you see this F and check the direction of the arrow? This arrow indicates towards the center of the circle. This force is known as your centripetal force. So in order for the electron to revolve around the nucleus, there are two types of force coming into picture. One is your electrostatic force, the other one is your centripetal force. So up till now what we have discussed. So according to the Bohr's theory, you have a central positive charge nucleus, and if you consider this one as your hydrogen atom, then for the hydrogen atom the nucleus has one proton. In that case the value of Z equals to 1. After this positively charged nucleus you have a electron, and the charge of this electron will be minus E, and this electron is revolving around this nucleus in a circular orbit at a radius r. Now since there is a positive charge and a negative charge, so a electrostatic force of attraction will come into picture. So from the electrostatic force of attraction, F equals to K times charge Q1, and in this case Q1 is the nucleus, and what is the charge of nucleus? Plus Ze. Fine. And what is Q2? Q2 is the charge of the electron. So multiply with E divided by R square. Okay, now what does this electrostatic force shows? It shows the electron is attracted towards the proton, and the direction of force is shown by this yellow direction. Fine. So if I simplify this term, I can write I can write minus k ze square upon r square, and this negative sign shows the direction of force towards the center. Now, what if I want to oppose this direction of force? Instead of assuming it from negative to positive charge, let us assume it from positive to negative charge. Okay. So to do this, what I have to do, I have to introduce a negative sign here. Fine. If I introduce a negative sign, what will happen? This direction of force will change and it will be in the opposite direction. So with the introduction of negative sign, you have changed the direction of force. Fine. This negative sign just denotes the direction. Always remember, in physics, negative signs denotes the direction. Now if I simplify this term, what happens if I open the bracket? This negative and negative becomes positive. So your F represents k times ze square upon r square. Okay. Or you can also assume that this value, okay, whatever you get from here, it will give only the numerical value. Forget about the directions also. Okay, no need to consider the vectors. It just represents the scalar part of this force. So what is the magnitude? The magnitude is k ze square upon r square. Okay, but if you have to consider the direction of the force, the direction of the force will be in this direction. I will tell you why I have considered the opposite direction. Okay. Now apart from this electrostatic force, there was one more force coming into picture, which is your centripetal force, and the centripetal force is given as mv square upon r, where m represents the mass of the body revolving. So m is the mass of the electron, and this v represents the velocity in which the speed of the velocity. Fine. And r denotes the radius of the circular orbit. Fine. So this is your centripetal force, and this centripetal force is directed towards the center. That's why centripetal force name suggests. Okay, so I have shown the centripetal force with this white line and the electrostatic force with this yellow line. Now in order for this electron to revolve on this stable stationary orbit, this force, centripetal force, and this electrostatic force should be equal. If any one of the force is greater, suppose if you consider the centripetal force is more, what will happen? The electron will fall towards the center. What happens if the electrostatic force is more? If the electrostatic force is more, the nucleus will move from the center and it will move towards your electron. Can you see the direction of the electrostatic force? So in order for this electron to revolve and to maintain this stationary orbit, this circle, okay, in order to maintain this circle, what it has to do, it has to balance this electrostatic force and the centripetal force. Fine. So now this is the condition for this electron to revolve in the circular orbit. Let's take this condition to the next slide. So I will have mv equals to k ze square upon r. Now I can send this r here, mv here, then I can write r equals to k ze square upon mv. Okay, it will be mv square since there is a square also, so it will be r equals to k ze square upon mv square. Fine. So let's give this equation a number, equation 1. So from your Bose second postulate, which is your Bose quantization condition, the angular momentum, which equals to mvr, can be written as the integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. So from here I can write my radius as, if I send this term mv to the denominator then my radius r equals to nh upon twice pi mv. Now let us give this equation a number 2. Fine. Now equation 1 is for radius, equation 2 is also for radius. Now we can equate this to equation kze square upon mv square equals to nh upon twice pi mv. Now from here I can cancel this m term and I can cancel this v term and this square term from here. So I'll get fine. Now if I cross multiply, I can write this v term here, nh term in the denominator, 2 pi in the numerator. So my expression of velocity v can be written as 2 pi kze square upon nh. Okay, so let's write this properly first. So I'll get the expression for the velocity or the speed of the electron with which it revolves around the nucleus. Fine. Okay, now if you have found the expression for the velocity, then you can also find the expression for the radius of the permitted orbit. So in order to find the expression for the radius, you can either use equation 1 or either use equation 2. What you have to do is just simply substitute the value, this v here, or you can substitute the v here. But if I substitute the v here in expression 1, then in that case I have to square it. So it will be little bit complicated, okay, as compared to this one. In this case there is no square, so I just have to simply substitute this v here. So I'll use this expression. Okay, so if I substitute this value in equation 2, write down your equation 2. Now instead of this v, I can write this term here. Fine. Now this nh will go to the numerator. So here n multiplied twice time n square, h square, 2 pi multiplied 2 pi, 4 pi square, multiply with k times ze square. So this is the expression for the radius. Fine. So that's it for today's class. Thank you. And if you have any confusion, please don't hesitate to ask. I will re-explain it to you again. So again, thank you.